To be on this call today. I actually called up or contacted DW and Miss Helen and Laura about coming onto this call because as things are going on, so much is happening, and I wonder how much impact that it is really having upon people, upon you as distributors and your customers and people around. I publish an enormous amount of material on Facebook. I'm sorry that they're restricting what people can get out to their friend base because there's so much good that can be done. Now, it is a social media, but this is the very best way of getting things out I've seen to people all around the world. But yet some of these things are so complex, and because of what regulations and laws are, that when you publish a study, you have to publish everything, either the abstract or the entire study. It's difficult for people to read and understand these. You can pick up a few highlight points, and that's the most important thing. After all, whoever you're talking to isn't interested in how it works. They're interested in what does it do. And so when you're in this business, you should be selling benefits, not features. And if you say you need everything, or I've had people come and say, I'm going to be one of your top distributors, but before I do, I need to know everything about everything. And I tell them, you've already disqualified yourself as being one of the top distributors, because you can never learn everything about it, and people don't want to listen to it anyway with what's there. What they want to know is the bullet points of what happens. Now, for a certain number of people, and of course I'm that way, you want to know fundamentally that it's not just snake oil, it's not smoke and mirrors, but there's some science, and you can pick up on some bullet points that are important on that. So we've made some amazing things. If you go back 2 years and you see where we were a great company, moving ahead strongly. We had a good weight loss system based on Sizzle, fire and ice, things of that nature. Then we evolved, and we were evolving. We had Eternity, the Triangle of Life, Spectromax, Picoidin, powerful combination for supporting the biological systems in breakthroughs in science in so many things that it defies talking about them on this program just for today. But we had all of that. We had some products for eyes. We had some for the immune system, Picoidin influence, and we were trying to develop a line of products that would be more universal in what you're doing. Now, dental was a big part of it too, because dental products are so damaging to our biology, to our health, to our brain, to keeping children's eyes from developing properly, and cataracts in adults, and all of that stuff. And fluoride's a toxin and a carcinogen, and it just goes on and on. Well, you can say a lot about toothpaste and mouthwash, and quite frankly, if you're looking at other products, it ain't good, because there are so many harmful things that come out of it. So we're trying to accomplish all of those things, and I think we've done it fairly well. And I've always said the best thing about our product line is what's not in it. That's quite a statement. You hear nobody else say that. But what we don't use can really improve your health. And what other companies do use can really damage your health. They can shorten your lifespan, and they can create many diseases within your body because of what they do, just in things that you ingest, or personal care products in particular with that. So you need to understand some things are very difficult, and some things are fairly easy. The skin is a barrier, but it's not a impermeable barrier. It can be penetrated, and it's all based upon the size of the ingredient, the molecular weight they call it. It's all based on the hydrogen atom, which has a molecular weight of 1. This is a little science. So anyway, a molecular weight of 1, if something has a molecular weight of 100, it makes it equal to 100 hydrogen atoms in size. Now, oxygen, for instance, has a molecular weight of 15. So that means an oxygen molecule is 15 times larger than a hydrogen, and so, or atom. So anyway, with that, There are certain things that will penetrate, just like you have a screen door. This is the way you should probably tell it to people that are out there. You have a screen door in your house. It'll let the air in and out, and perhaps the dust can penetrate, but big things like leaves or flies or any other thing like that are stopped. Well, but still dust gets through, still air gets through, and that type of thing. So your skin is kind of like that. It'll keep anything with too large of a molecular weight on from penetrating, and yet small things, it doesn't matter what they are, they'll go through. And when they go through the skin, they get into the blood system, they're carried throughout the whole body. So there's pros and cons to that, and it means one thing. That we can do a lot with skin if we know what to do, and we can do a lot with skin if we know what not to do. And so we have those kinds of things that we're dealing with. Now, I'm going to get around to a more specific thing, but I want to preface this a little bit by telling you some of these things that we're doing and why we're doing them. You see, the difference between human needs and science is really great. And what we're trying to do is bridge that gap between science and human needs, because science is there and it takes so long to get it out. If you look at the big lawsuits that are going on right now, a good example is with talc. Now they're finding huge judgments against people because the courts are saying, actually the people that are prosecuting in the courts are saying that talc causes ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer. And everyone, oh my God, it does? Well, God, I knew that over 30 years ago. And it was published in studies at that time. But it took so long to get it to public. But how many people do you think were diapering babies, especially young girls or infants, and using baby powder on top of them? And it causes endometrial and ovarian cancer within them. Or it has the potential to do it, of course, you have to say. With it, but now the courts are saying, yes, it does, but how many people have died because of that for over the 30 years since they've known? How many more are going to continue to die because it's not off the marketplace? The reason it's not off the marketplace is even though the companies producing it have lost huge amounts in settlements, it's insignificant next to the profit they keep making from continuing to sell it. And the reason it's not pulled off the market is it's approved. It's like cigarettes. Is there anything good comes out of smoking a cigarette? No. Is there anything harmful? Sure. Smoking is very bad for your health, very damaging. It can kill you and you stink. That's what you can say about cigarette smoking. But it's still here because it got approved a long time ago. It's grandfathered in. And it literally takes an act of Congress to remove it, and look how Congress is now acting. So they're more into trying to get political power than they are in looking after us. But they've always been that way to a large degree. It's just worse now with it. So anyway, here they are selling baby powder all over, losing big lawsuits, but making more profit off what they're selling. Now that's big business, that's big pharma, that's big medicine, all of that. Now that might be in a personal care product, but if that's the exposure, don't you think you ought to avoid it? Well, you'll also find out it's in almost all color cosmetics that you use and facial treatments and of sorts that you use for color cosmetics and that type of superficial. So it penetrates very easily around the eyes and things like that. All of that. So there's so much to be said about what not to do. Almost nobody's saying anything about it except us. Now, you can't build your business entirely on that, but certainly if you do tell people, it's kind of shocking. Sometimes they can't believe it, but now you see it in the courts, and they go to court and somebody gets $100 million settlement because they had endometrial cancer. And now that's happening with Roundup 2 and things like that. So who's doing anything about it? Us'uns. We are the people that are doing something about it. We're informing you, so you do that. So if the best thing about our products is what's not in it, yet what can we put in it? What has science found? What has science found recently, many decades ago, that has never made it to the marketplace? And the reason it doesn't make it to the marketplace is science will discover something, but they look at the market that they're going to sell it to that might have a great effect on it, and they say, oh, it's not that big a market, so we're not going to bring it out. And with the FDA and the regulatory agencies, they dang well don't want you selling the natural ingredient that they discovered to treat this condition, because you interfere with their business model on selling pharmaceuticals and prescription drugs and OTC over-the-counter drugs with it. So they have a great financial and political emphasis on what they're doing and the way that they act. That's why right after the spring break, the Big Pharma had 1,000 and some other lobbyists, but about 1,000 from Big Pharma lobbyists paid for the Democrats for have a retreat down in Puerto Rico. And in doing so, why did they do that? And they asked the Democrats because they will give them the power they need to make the obscene amounts of money that they make off prescription drugs. I had an injury, for example, and I got some clots in my legs because of an injury to my lower leg, and that's where you get blood clots in their veins and the systems from that. And so, because I did, they said, well, you're going to be put on Eliquist, and because it's a blood thinner. I said, what does it do for the blood clot? Oh, nothing, but it thins the blood because you need the blood thinned because you got the blood clots. Okay, so now we're treating symptoms. What comes with that? They said, well, it can reduce stroke. I said, yes. It can. There's two types of stroke. There's hemorrhagic and ischemic stroke. So while it eliminates one, it increases the other, doesn't it? Hemorrhagic smoke.
Caring makes you do uncommon things, like looking after Frank, a dog-shaped wrecking ball.
Mum called and it's really urgent.
Caring makes HCF do uncommon things too, like putting our members' health first, because we're Australia's largest not-for-profit health fund.
But it will create, from blockage, but it will create leakage and you'll get a hemorrhagic stroke out of it, which is worse. Strokes are both bad, so as a consequence, I said, I'm going to be very restrictive in what I do, and that I can thin my blood without that and keep it more in control. And he said, with what, aspirin? I said, yeah, aspirin's a good one. Well, you can't get enough with aspirin. I said, you're talking about baby aspirin, where you're talking about a very small milligram. I'm talking about taking a dose of 100 milligrams twice a day. That'll keep your blood as thin as you need to have it without being ultra thin, so you have all these damages. Now, I'm getting off a little bit and telling you these stories, but I said, okay, well, I'll take it a little bit. And we had an argument about there were three other doctors there that were all in the thing, and we had actually a discussion. It wasn't an argument. But with that, I told them, what can you do to clean out my veins, particularly where all the plaquing has occurred from the blood from this injury that I had. And they said, oh, there's nothing will do that. I said, nothing you can prescribe that will do it, but there are things in nature that will do that. And this doctor, three of them just sat there and they're just stone cold, didn't know what to say. And I said, for instance, I'm going to use serapatase and nattokinase. Both of those will dissolve the clot itself. Now, it may do it slowly, but it's better than having it there forever. You can do it. But then I'm going to do some other things that increase it, like using gotu kola, which has a tremendous effect on it, and hawthorn berry, which also does. And there's a number of other things with it. But I said, I'm going to use an array of these because I can do something about it. Now, I was getting some varicose veins because of the plugging that was taking place, and was getting quite lumpy and all that. And so that's why I'd gone in, and certain parts of my legs were swelling up so bad I had pressure pain from it. They said, well, you'll have to be in blood thinners the rest of your life. And I said, no, I won't, because I'm going to take care of this situation. I'm going to use these. And as I talked about, the other doctors, well, how do you know that works? And, well, the one doctor, the head chief doctor, said, yeah, I've heard of at least one of these with what I can do. And I said, sure, these are natural medicines. You can't make a synthetic out of it. But that means only that you can't make a synthetic so you can patent it and go through the prescription drug process. It means it works. Actually, your laboratories, pharmaceutical laboratories, research laboratories at universities have discovered that it can, have proven that it does, but it never gets to the market because you restrict it, and unless it's a prescription drug, you cannot make the claims of what science has proved that it will do. So what you have to do, because of big government, and I'll tell you what, if you have an FDA audit, you'd sooner have a root canal, I can tell you that. But with that, you have to say about things that are natural. The good thing about sometime in the distant past, legislators said, well, you can't patent a natural molecule because Big Pharma was trying to patent all these natural molecules. Said, no, they're God-given.
Caring made you dress in the fashion equivalent of a medieval torture device. Caring makes HCF do uncommon things too, like upgrading you to our top cover for 90 days if you end up in hospital from an accident.
The public cannot know, and they say, well, there's a lot of quackery. It's unproven medical science. Baloney, it's unprovable. I mean, there are some things that are absurd, but promoted by companies and saying they will do things they can't do. But in reality, a lot of these things that are so important have been well proven. It's just that they're natural and you can't make a patent, so you can't get a prescription drug. But then it's against the law for us to tell the truth of what they can do. So you have to say it supports. And in the case of skincare, it seems, it appears, it looks, it feels. Now, those are things that tell you sort of what it does, but you can't say that the other things that it does do and be specific. Now, all that prefacing that I'm talking to you about is applicable through skincare, hair care, color cosmetics, any of those types of things, but also heavily into dietary supplements. And, of course, we're heavy in dietary supplements. So the past 2 years, we brought out some sensational things. We brought out Sizzle Rip, which supports the building of muscle without exercise. You built muscle without exercise when you're young, didn't you? And so if the right nutrients are there, science has shown that it will support your natural biological processes to build muscle. How many people are interested in that? Because you start having muscle wasting after you're about in your early 20s. It slowly starts, but as you get older, it accelerates, and pretty soon you see somebody 60, 70 years old and they're skin and bones. And where's the muscle mass? It's gone. So here you have something as powerful as Sizzle Rep to support your biology. Now, if you look up the ingredients, you look up the studies, you say, wow, this thing really works. There's 23 proven clinical studies, peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed means they're absolutely proven and followed up by an independent third party to validate those. So you have 23 peer-reviewed studies on top of it, but yet we can't say it does. We can only say it supports the system to do that. And so that's where we're restricted, but it also, if you know how to say it, it's not what it does, it's what you say the way that it does it. And so that's why we have some restrictions. So we come up with Sizzle Rip. And then after that, shortly thereafter, we came out with the age pill, the major discovery in the history, the greatest discovery in the history of human health, the age pill, because it supports, as a precursor, the production of NAD, which is what Harvard Medical School calls the immortality molecule, and for darn good reason with what it does, because as it goes down, cellular activity goes down tremendously, and stem cell activity just starts falling off. And so when you're 18 to 20 years old, you have 100%. By the time you're 30, you've lost about 20% of that. By the time you're 40, you've lost 40% of it. By the time you're 50, you've lost 60% of it. And by the time you're 60, you're somewhere down around 5% of the stem cell activity you had when you were 18 to 20. So That's an important, if we can take it back to where it was when you're young, if we can take the biological indicators back to where it was when you were 20 years old, guess what happens to your 50-year-old body? It starts functioning like it was in its 20s again. And it is utterly impossible, in my not-so-humble opinion, that you cannot help but to grow younger, to become more healthy, because of the massive support that this formulation from the age pill has done. And now they're finding so many other things for it, but it's become, they call it the immortality molecule. Well, it's a magic molecule in the way that just like the advertising, things go better with Coke, everything goes better with the age pill. No matter what you're using, where you're at, the age pill will make it work better, in my opinion. I always have to say my opinion, to be careful on that, and you'll notice a lot of my writings will say that. So anyway, here we have the age pill, spectacular, and it has shot out. And now we're seeing, which is very interesting, a lot of testimonies coming in from people who have been on the age pill a year and a half, and they're talking about the tremendous changes that have taken place in their body because of that. Vicky Spicer and Bill Whiteley, two good examples that come through. Bill DeFalco. You see all of these things happening, and with so many more people that are coming in saying, here's where I was and here's where I am now. And it's not like other companies that are selling products where they say, people in a company, like if they were in in the Zango company, if you will, it's selling mangosteen juice. Well, science proved that apple juice is more powerful than mangosteen juice is, but when the money was good, everybody was saying, oh, I feel so much better, my allergies were gone, that I never could get rid of. And then the company collapses because, you know, the opportunity is over and the products people are taking are actually not seeing much, in my opinion. And so as a result, the company hit $1 billion and now it collapsed and sold out the remnants of it to another company to take on. But mangosteen will never be on the forefront again because the business building opportunity was what it had to offer, not the product performance. I don't want that. I want a product that's based, what we say about it is based on real science, and it's spectacular science, and it goes far beyond what's in the marketplace, and it provides the solutions or the support solutions to the very things that we're so interested in. Now, what are we interested in? Well, we're darn well interested in not getting older, not aging, not becoming more decrepit, not getting many of these diseases that we get from so many things that can be averted if you do a couple of things. You don't get cancer when you're young. You don't get a heart attack when you're young. You don't get a stroke when you're young. Yeah, there are exceptions. But honest to Pete, all of those things don't happen. You have good muscles, good eyesight, good energy, all of that. Well, what can support that? Well, the age pill can do it. And other things can support it too, but the age pill is the spectacular one in that area. So then you take a look at the brain. The brain, if you lost the functionality of most of the organs of your body, the brain would be the last one you'd want to go, isn't it? But yet the brain has the greatest amount of activity in its body. There's about 60,000 right now calculations going on in your brain right now. Most of them subconscious, of course, but that's how it runs the body. And it runs the body because of NAD+, which is supported by the precursors to build NAD, which is in the age pill. And all those things put together because the time won't go through it to talk about the other support things that are, I think, necessary to make the NAD precursors even more effective in what they're doing. We've solved that in the age pill. It's not a single molecule that does it. It does, NAD, but how about the things that are impeding NAD? How about plaque buildup? How about cellular garbage? Those things greatly impede NAD. Nobody's even looking at it or doing it. We've done something that's in the age pill, see? So we really address these things aggressively. But if you get back to the brain, with 60,000 calculations going on continuously in your brain, it takes in, it uses 30% of the oxygen that you take in, because all this energy has to be created by oxidation, and yet it just weighs a little over 1% of your body, but it uses a third of all the oxygen that you breathe in, because there's so much activity. Well, oxidation is releasing the energy from glucose by oxidizing it, like exploding gasoline in a car with spark and oxygen and gasoline. You do it. The same thing that happens in your cells. You have oxygen, you have glucose, which is like gasoline. You have a spark the cell ignites it with, and it explodes it. What happens when you explode gas? You got a lot of toxic things that go out the tailpipe, right? Well, in the cells, they're there within the cells, and they have to migrate out. And on the way out, they do a lot of damage unless you have a lot of antioxidants to combat it. And you get 500,000 antioxidants, 500,000 oxidative hits every day in the stem cell, if you can imagine that. And so as a consequence, you have to have an array of things to intercept all those oxidative hits, because there's about 2,200 different types of them that are occurring. Now, that's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it? So you don't want to get into all that with talking to the person, but it's really nice to know that somebody knows about it, that somebody is doing something with it in the products. That somebody is Sizzle. We are the ones that are doing it. We're looking at things. Thank goodness God has given me the type of mind that I can comprehend, understand these things, and look for logical solutions to what really it should be, rather than just a one-shot wonder that is maybe okay, maybe not okay, and fades with time. I want these things to last forever, and I think the age pill is going to last forever because of what it can do. But then here, the age pill is raging, and what do? We bring out hydrogen, the H2 stick. Now, we had hydrogen water in the countertop unit, and it was great. And if you get between 0.5% to 1.5% of hydrogen, it's considered very healthy. But in hydrogen, the case, more is better. And we can crank off 15 or 20.0 ppm in comparison to what comes out of the water machine. Now, I have a water machine that works in my house because I want to drink hydrogen water, want to drink water. But every day I'll take a shot or two of the H2 stick, because that gigantic amount of hydrogen has a profound effect throughout all the body, and especially in the brain. Because hydrogen, of all the things, no matter what you say it is, when it's glucose or burning carbs, those kinds of things, it's all based on the energy of the hydrogen molecule. So you can talk about it a lot of different ways, but the elemental, basic, fundamental factor in it is hydrogen. It's what most of the universe was created of. It's about 80% of the universe. The sun is a ball of hydrogen that sends energy down, solar radiation and solar energy with it, but hydrogen is what it delivers, and that makes all life on Earth possible with it. So we haven't had much of an understanding of hydrogen, because it's the smallest atom and molecule in the universe and very difficult to follow. It's not so complex, not so large, but now science has advanced so much that we do know what it will do, and what it will do is stunning. Now, when you take the hydrogen, if the hydrogen atom is the essential one, or molecule, we have H2 is the way it is because it wants to pair. When it goes in, that supports a tremendous increase in energy. And the NAD molecule that the H pill is supporting, it is NAD+. That plus is the positive charge from hydrogen that it delivers to the mitochondria, which creates electrical energy, which is released as hydrogen, which creates the electrical energy, and then the NAD is spent and it's discarded. But how about if you're taking a hydrogen water to drink, or if you take the H2 stick and hydrogen? It finds that it doesn't last long in the bottle, but it lasts a long time in your body. And so now when the NAD is passing off the hydrogen and then being discarded, it, in theory, we have to say, it can be recharged with hydrogen. When it does, in theory, and according to studies, it will recycle, and we can recycle it again and again and again. And if NAD plus means energy in your body, how much of that do you want? A lot more than what you got, right? So here you've got the hydrogen molecule doing just that kind of thing. And with energy, then all the biology of the whole body has to be supported by energy, and particularly in the brain it does, and the oxidation is tremendous in the brain. So what's starting to go fastest as you get older is the brain, and you start getting into things like Alzheimer's and dementia and many of the other things. And our kids are having really big problems with concussion that are playing contact sports and that type of thing. And we have stroke from so many things that happen within it, and the impediment of the blood flow and the capillaries. But guess what, folks? Hydrogen supports almost all of those processes, supports the processes that actually can alleviate that. It has, we have to say it carefully, it has the potential to alleviate that because of the support that it gives to the system. That's the way we have to say it. So what does it do to support the brain? As you get a stroke or something like that, it brings the capillaries and are actually plugging up, they're becoming brittle or becoming smaller because you're losing energy in the heartbeat and a lot of other things, accumulated debris within it, this plaque that starts building up, and it gets thinner, it gets more brittle, it'll crack, it'll give you a stroke. But along comes hydrogen. It's the cavalry to the rescue. It supports the system so that capillaries can be flexible and more dynamic, and that blood will flow, it increases blood flow. And you have things within the brain as you get older that parts of your brain start to die. It's not just brain cells, but even areas of it, and it's a cerebral infraction. And so as these pockets of dead cells start occurring in the brain, guess what can support the system to keep that from happening? H2, hydrogen with that type of thing. So that's something to consider about the support for that alone. And then it has powerful support in the body, in the brain's fight against dementia and Alzheimer's and stroke and things of that nature. But then things go better with the age field, yes. So it's stem cells that have to replace the brain cells because they get worn out, or it has to repair them. So the NAD plus does that. So here comes the H pill supporting the NAD production, and that goes with it too. And on top of that, then you have brain vitality, which comes along and it is an armada of super nutrients within it, super nutraceuticals they classify them at, that go into the brain and work on various things like the brain is very low on magnesium. Your bodies are all low on magnesium, where it's the most difficult mineral to absorb, and it's the one that's for creating energy, and the brain's the most hungry for it. And here comes brain vitality, and here comes the H2 with it both, and they're delivering copious amounts of magnesium to the brain. It can get through. You can't take much magnesium from ingesting something because of the forms it is. You've heard of milk of magnesia, because you get too much magnesium, it becomes a laxative because it's not absorbed and creates issues. But if you get the right form of it, like we use in brain vitality and like we use to create the hydrogen, which is the byproduct of that with the H2 stick, then you have abundant amounts of magnesium to go in. So you see how they all work together, and you got to build new cell tissue and all of those things. And so then on top of brain vitality, it has acetylcholine, which goes in to do that, and things that I won't go through all the names of these things, but I know them. What is the most powerful thing in the universe that I know of in the world? That's probably a little too bold a statement, but for Alzheimer's, it happens to be curcuminoids. They support the brain system more powerfully than anything ever discovered anywhere for people that don't have Alzheimer's and people that do have Alzheimer's. It has enormous support for the brain's biological systems that are fighting it, as hydrogen does too, with that type of thing. And then there's super omega plus, because you've heard that fish is brain food. Well, what's in fish? It's not just fish, it's the omega-3 that's in fish. But we have a variety of omegas. There's 3 types of omega-3s that we use, and we have a whole bunch of other things, all designed to build membranes on cells, not just brain cells, but they're especially powerful for brain cells. And for children that are in contact sports, I will tell you, Brain Vitality, Super Omega Plus, and the H2 stick can do so much to support their brain health and to support the fight against any damage, concussion that would occur. So there's a lot of things to be said there for it. Plus, if you look at hydrogen, today's a rambling day, it is the most powerful antioxidant known to mankind, and probably always will be. Now, we have SpectraMax, which has 40 different types of antioxidants in it, because there are 2,200 types of oxidizers that are attacking our bodies. And so we figured the 40 covers most of them. But there are some places, because large antioxidant molecules can only get so far in what they can do, and in the cell it's kind of difficult. It's trying to intercept most things as they come out of the cell. Some a little bit will go into the cell, but hydrogen is unstoppable. It goes everywhere. And so when it goes into the cell, you have one of the biggest things that cause a lot of damage is heavy metals, which are terrible oxidizers with it, and they cause a lot of damage, a lot of cancer, a lot of those kinds of things like that. Well, we're not talking about a cure for that. What we're talking about is the hydrogen molecule will go through, and because it has these powerful electronic charges with it, it will neutralize those oxidizers. So it is the most powerful antioxidant in the world, in your body, and it goes everywhere. There is no cell that can deny it, because it's like the air that comes through the screen door. It can get there, and it does get there, and you have so many things going on for it to support energy, antioxidants, a lot of biological functions that are tremendously supported by hydrogen. And one of the reasons we're making a big deal out of this, because science is now making a big deal out of it. It's only been the last 3 to 5 years they knew much about hydrogen. Now they're just astonished on what it does for things like physical activity, for athletics. They're giving it now to racehorses because their performance is much greater with that. They found people that are involved in sports can energize themselves and operate at a higher level for a longer period of time, and their recovery is much better with it. So we're going to have a program out here. We hope we can pass on to sports teams for you to take to them, to take to your high schools and junior high and universities and things like that. And we'll have a program showing the power of diatomic hydrogen water, because if the football team or the basketball team is playing, for example, what do they do when there's a timeout or a break? They run the water out in the field because they need to be hydrated. Nothing on planet Earth hydrates as well as hydrogen water does. It is incredibly fast, and it reoxygenates the system much, much faster than even breathing pure oxygen can do that. So wouldn't you want a team to have much faster recovery, much less fatigue, operate at a higher level? Sure you do. Okay, so maybe you're not on one of those teams, but don't you want that operating in your body? You bet your biffy you do, and we've got it so that we'll really do that and work for you. Now, recently there's things coming out where it's showing H2 is so powerful to protect against protecting against lung injury. It supports SOD, which is the most important internal antioxidant that the human body produces. There's about 3 major ones which it does, which is SOD, glutathione, and catalase. Of those, they're all terribly important. H2 produces or supports the production of very high levels of SOD and somewhat on glutathione. So, and we're going to be doing a few things here in the future. We'll kind of shock you with what we're doing. So it works in that. It's very powerful on anxiety. But guess what, folks? So is CBD, which is the last one that we've just brought out, which is now raging right up there with Sizzle Rip, with the Age Pill, with H2 Stick. And now CBD, it's like running the Kentucky Derby. They have win, place, and show. How would you like? Well, we got the win, we got the place, we got the show, and we got the next runner-up behind it. That's what we've got within the company. And so you see all the things it can do for the brain, for the lungs, for the heart, for the cardiovascular system, for the neurological system. And now it's showing it has a profound effect to support the body's fight against type 2 diabetes and against things like fatty liver, which you really don't realize what it is, but kill children, especially today, because of lifestyle and the foods, the fatty foods and things that have fatty liver, which really impedes their biological. It's a big processing organ of the body, which impedes that, and it's doing it in you too. But now here you come along with hydrogen, and it supports in 28 days they see a dramatic change in fatty liver just by taking reasonably high levels of H2. Nowhere near as high as what our H2 stick is, but if you're getting 1 or 2 ppm, they're having tremendous effects in 28 daid. Can you imagine if that 28 days you were taking not 1 or 2, but 15 or 20 ppm? That's the range, depending on how long you let it sit, that we have with ours. It's really immense. But the other thing that happened now, right out of the blue, is weight loss. Weight loss from the hydrogen water, of course, it creates the energy in the body. So what goes along with that? If you have a lot of energy in the body, you burn more fat with that because you're creating more biological activity. So in the process of doing that, it's all based upon energy, and H2 is super energy. It's the super nuke. It's the hydrogen bomb in a mini nuke formulation that goes off within your body to release immense amounts of energy for creating regeneration and growth and fat burning and weight loss and all of these other factors, all from hydrogen. So now there's studies coming out showing it's having a profound effect on what they call the promotional events of early tumor development. Well, I can't go too far in that because that's the one you really don't want to cross over, because cancer or tumors is the biggest source of income to big pharma, and we have to be very careful of that. But now studies are coming out showing how effective it is in the mouth, not just swallowing it, but swishing it around. Swish your hydrogen water around, because what it does is it inhibits the biofilm from the strep. So the streptococcus, which is what causes things like periodontitis and tooth decay and gum disease of all sorts. And with that, it keeps that biofilm of that bacterium from forming. Isn't that amazing? And now what we found out just recently, this is something new that'll blow your socks off, CBD has a profound effect in the mouth as a mouthwash. So when you take the CBD in, sure, you can swallow it and give you effect, and really supports a lot of things, stress, anxiety, pain, all of those things are supported by CBD, but by swishing it around in the mouth, it's an extremely powerful anti-inflammatory, as is the hydrogen water with it. But it takes a little more time for CBD. But I'm going to publish something here very shortly to show you what CBD can do in the mouth if you swish it around, because it is so great for the oral cavity. And in so many areas between it and hydrogen water, they have a tremendous effect. You don't take them together, take them a little bit independently. But I'd take CBD last if I was going to do that, because then you're going to leave a residual that's there with it. But now here's something right out of the blue. You got the greatest toothpaste in the world, greatest mouthwash in the world, but now here are 2 products you're going to take for other things too. And if you just swish them around a little bit in your mouth, you'll have tremendous support for about everything that you see going on within the mouth. And have you got achy jaw and things like that, CBD in the mouth, wow, that's what you want right there. So you may be, and I'm thinking about it, in the near future, we might even have a mouthwash like Terminator, but perhaps Terminator Plus or something. That's just a figure of speech, but with CBD in it. Why not? We can't put the hydrogen in it because it dissipates too fast, but CBD doesn't. So we may make a mouthwash with CBD in it. And so, and with me, if I was going to rinse my mouth with CBD mouth rinse, I wouldn't spit it out. I'd drink it. I'd swallow it when it was done because it goes everywhere and does so much for it. So you look at all of those things we're doing, and they're spectacular. And if you listen to me here, tune into any other company and have them listen to how they advertise their product or their magic molecule that they have discovered, that was just mostly smoke and mirrors and overhyped and underperformed, where our products we'll hype the heck out of them, but they'll overperform what we hype. We have to restrict ourselves in saying what they can do, even though science says so much more than what we're legally allowed to say. So, but here's the power of network marketing. That's why it's here and not on the store shelf, because you can learn enough about this. Don't learn everything about it. Learn the bullet points. Learn enough about these things so you can talk to people. And when you do, then the power of personal contact is the greatest selling tool in the world. Advertising is over in 15 to 30 seconds on TV, or a article in a magazine is hardly read. Here you're talking to somebody, you have the enormous power of one-on-one personal contact, whether it be through social media or you contacting them, and you can pass on immense amounts of good reasons, selling the features or the benefits, not the features. Then you can create a tremendous increase in your business. So, how are you building your business? Well, are these not the products that everyone on earth should be using? Are these the products that people want to use? Aren't these the kind of products that people would want to sell? These products are to die for. They're the kinds that people have always dreamed, that thought they were out there somewhere. They just couldn't get their hands on them. And with Sizzle, you can. We've got them now. We're so far ahead of science. We're researching the research to bridge this gap between science and human needs, and we're bringing out products far ahead of their time, far ahead of medicines. That which, if they discover a product in nature, it takes about 25 years before it ever gets to the marketplace. The approval process is about an average of 13 years, takes about $1 to $2 billion. And before the 13 years, how many years of researching the natural ingredient or trying to find a synthetic molecule that will do it comes in? So you're looking at a 20, maybe 25-year gap between the discovery that's made by the time it gets as an overpriced prescription drug. Yes, that's right. If you go back to my Eliquis story, I went in and I bought some. I said, well, I'll take some when I travel because I fly once in a while, and that'll help me in that. But the doctors were kind of surprised because I told them what I was going to do, and they said, well, you should be doing this. I said, I'm not going to do it because there's a better way to do it. And but the doctor said, well, will you take Eliquis and just do it when you fly then? I said, well, that's reasonable. I'll do it once in a blue moon when I do that. But anyway, I did. So I went to the pharmacy and picked it up, and I have a copay with my insurance, and they said the copay's $120. I said, are you kidding? The copay with that? Because the majority pay, what does it sell for? They said it sells for $580 for a month's supply. I looked at those pills. It doesn't cost $1 to make them. It's in there. They're getting $580 out of it. And what are they doing? They're treating the symptom, not addressing the condition. So I went to, of course I use a little bit of it if I do fly, but I really don't give a hang whether I do or don't, because I have the knowledge to know what to use to do. Now, we don't have all of these things out for you right now, but you bet they're coming. I'm working on these things. And here I'm the guy that founded this company with the vision that I had. But my vision, the higher I climbed the mountain, the more I could see. And now I see so much that can be done, and things that we are doing that no one else on earth is doing. And I look ahead at what we're going to do, and I realize just how absolutely powerful and exciting this company is for people. It just, word has to get out. So this is a word-of-mouth business for you, and you can create the dream life that you want off these sensational products. And it goes from everywhere. It goes from your toenails to the hair on the top of your head and everywhere in between. And DW was talking about gut health. It's very important. You are what you eat. So, but if your gut is inhibited, what happens? You store fat, you don't get nutrients, you create a lot of diseases and things like that. We've got the answer to those things. But they're not as dynamic as the products we've been talking about. But if you use Balance D, if you've ever taken an antibiotic, you've damaged your digestive system to the point it will never recover and become normal because of the damage from the antibiotics, which has killed off the good microflora that's within it. So the body won't create it and come back. It is to a permanently damaged state, except you can repopulate it with a product like Balance D that's within it. And you know what we do? We build up a lot of mucoidal plaque. Now, the nutrients are filtered out with a finger-like, almost like tentacles, but lots of them everywhere, because a flat surface has very little area, and fingers sticking up have tremendous amounts of area. But these get plugged up with all kinds of toxins and plaque. You absorb more, or you absorb a lot less nutrients because of it, and the really toxic heavy metals and things like that accumulate. So we have a lot of damage in the gut. Well, here's our Super Detox, enormously powerful for that. My only advice to you, and use that, don't take it and travel, or you'll wish you hadn't. But if you take it every so often, or however it takes to make you regular, and you take some the Balance D to put your system back to where it's supposed to be, okay, we got that part of it going. Now let's go to every other single part of your body. What are you going to do about eyes? Well, I can tell you what, there's been a lot of discovery about eyes, and if you look at our new vision, we have it. Some companies are talking about AREDs. They are right. It's the most important thing. Our product is heavily built upon AREDs, but there's also a number of other things, lutein, astaxanthin, all of the and different ingredients that are within our eye product. So if you're interested in your brain functioning, okay, there's brain vitality, there's the Super Omega Plus, there's the H2, all of those things. But if you're interested in seeing, okay, Super Omega Plus is very important for that. H2 is good for it, but the super nutrient complex is there, and it's so great to help support the body's fight against all of the conditions of the eyes that I know of. I'm just not going to be definitive because I don't want to get so far. I don't want to have the exposure for the company with saying what it can do. But if you look up the ingredients and you put it in search engines and find out what you do, you find that it is unbelievable. What does the eye need to protect itself? Because it's exposure to UV light and the damage. What does it do about the pigmentation that goes away? What about the damage to the capillaries and all those things that are so important to the eye? How about the building up of cataracts, which is the number one cause of blindness in adults? All those things can be addressed if you supplement what the body needs to perform to fight those kinds of things. But you're not going to get it in a multivitamin, and you're not going to get it from some concoction that some nutcase company is selling that does everything, which is they don't. And we make for a lot of companies, hundreds of companies we make products for, because it's good business, and they're going to get them made somewhere else. We make the profit. And so while we make the profit, that isn't the big thing. The profit allows us to do much greater things with Sizzle. But I can tell you, for all these companies we make, all the products we made, there isn't a single one that I'd use for Sizzle, because they're woefully inadequate to what can be done and what we are doing. But they're done because for the economy. And it's just like this past year, and I'm getting close to my hour, so I'll slow it down now. But last year, the FDA went and they investigated the top 200 selling products on the East Coast, different ones, and dietary supplements. They found out not a single one of them had enough of the active ingredient they claimed it was in it to be a therapeutic dose. 100% failure. Not one single one out of the 200 top sellers were made to the specifications of where you could get a therapeutic effect from it. Well, I will tell you that's because they do it the minimum or less, and sometimes they found there were undetectable amounts. That means less than 1 part per million of whatever the ingredient is. Yeah, if you put 1 part per billion or per trillion in, you can list it on the label, and that's what they do with these things. Very common with it. Not with us. We don't go to the minimum or lower. We go to the maximum that we can do, and then use many more things, because the total of the parts does not meet what the total power of the collective synergistic energy or potential of the product is. In other words, if you have 10 ingredients, it's not 10. There's a factor of using them together that might be 50 or 100. And when you use them in minimal doses, what have you got? Minimal effects. Less than that, of course, nothing. That's snake oil, smoke and mirrors, and that's where most products are. Ours are maximum strength. They're the maximum number of different factors that involve that we can find that support the central theme of the product that we're doing. So my time's up. But if you listen to this today, if you watch what's going on, think of all the things that we've done just within the last year or two. Look at the results that are coming through on testimonies. This is just like a dream come true. These are the things that people always thought were out there, but nobody could get their hands on because they weren't. Science was there, the products aren't, and in Sizzle they are. They're right here for you right now. You can take them. You can change your life. You can change the life of tens of hundreds of thousands, and for some of you, tens of thousands of people by what you're doing. And you can make a darn good income off this so that you can become happier, healthier, and wealthier. And that's the mission of our company, and everything here is to help you to achieve that. And it's I'm with my son Tom Jr. and of course you have Aaron and people, Milo, people like that are very hard. We are totally dedicated to taking this theme, which I and Tom Jr. really direct and see to, that you have these spectacular products, not better than these inadequate products are out in the market, but are vastly superior to all others, and maximize the science rather than just use a little glimmer of it for illusion. We want real results, and we want you to want this to be a company you can have for the rest of your life. You can pass it on if you ever pass on, because we're on the road to immortality. We're not going to make it yet, but you know what? A lot of you folks, if you think how much time you've got left, I think you can, let's say you had another 20 years to live. How about making it 40? I think we got that right there. And part of you start taking these products, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you could live to be 150, 200 years old. The potential is there for that. And before you get there, we're going to find things that are going to take it far beyond that. Aubrey de Grey, who's the world's leading authority, says he believes the people born on this earth today that are being born now will be living 400 or 500 years because of the advances in science that have been created and that will be created. I believe that completely. So 400 or 500 years from now, I wasn't born today, but I've been on good supplements, good things. My biological time clock is 30 years younger than my chronological age, and so yeah, I'm growing younger, and I'm going to try and keep that way. And if you hit your 200th year birthday, well, I want to be there to celebrate with you, don't you? You want your loved ones there? So that's the story in a nutshell, even though I rambled on for about an hour, of some of the things, the more spectacular things of Sizzle. But I don't care what you go to. If you go to toothpaste, if you go to hair shampoo, you go to any personal care product, transfusion for the skin, there is nothing like us on the earth. But what do you see what's going to happen? We're not content with what we got, because when new science comes out that does it better or adds something to it to make it even more potent, we leap on it, take it, incorporate it in, and you're going to see this year, you're going to see such major leaps forward. We have the most sophisticated skincare line in the world, and we're going to go into orbit with what the things we're doing to add to it. So anyway, that's my message for today, DW. And thank you for all being on the call. I hope this has been helpful for you. And I want to make you aware and cognizant of the fact of what our products are. These are not just products. These are spectacular solutions for you to use to attain the things that you want in health, to keep those things that you don't want from occurring, to grow younger, to live longer at a younger age. Isn't that the ideal? We got that right now, and we're going to make it better, 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 because we'll never quit. I'm never going to retire. This theme is going to go on because I'm totally dedicated to this, and you are the most important part of this company. It's all done for you, and nothing can be done without you, and I realize that. So I put my life, my fortune, everything into this because I believe in you, and I believe in what you can do. Individually, we can't do much, but collectively, we can do almost anything, I believe. So that's my message for today, and I'll turn time back to you, DW.